Back to the other scene, Cho Han-gil fights on with the thugs. He punches down the lackeys in a valiant show of courage. Even Kwan-nuel looks at him taking on people, and can't help but feel how tough Cho Han-gil is. Shin Yusong watched on as well, and he took this opportunity to mock Han-gil. He asked Han-gil what happened to his resolve. He vowed to take Yusong's life, yet now he looks too focused on taking on others. Han-gil reassured him that he will be coming for him soon. However, Yusong questioned if that is possible, because Han-gil was simultaneously trying to fight him and save the girl. Han-gil realized that Yusong saw through his thought process, because Han-gil was more concerned about the girl, who had to be rescued as she had barely any time left. He doesn't want the past to repeat itself. Yusong thought it was pathetic, and asked Han-gil if he wanted to replicate what happened to the old man with himself. He asked if he also wanted to be the caretaker of kids with no background. This seemed to anger Han-gil, as he told Yusong to keep his mouth shut. However, Yusong told his guys to go ahead and take the girl's life first. The guys rushed at the girl who was bleeding out, while Han-gil wondered just what he could do now. We then go to a flashback. From the very beginning of Cho Han-gil's life, the feeling that was constant was solitude. At age 14, he was left as a boy with nothing. After he was born, Han-gil was abandoned by his parents and grew up in an orphanage. This made him a prime target at school. Even though the teacher asked if the school was violent, and the students always responded saying there wasn't, he had to suffer immense bullying afterward. The teacher saw but ignored it. Eventually, it became too much for him to handle, and so Han-gil decided to beat up his bullies and left school, as his teacher noticed this. After starting his life as a homeless runaway, he realized that this way of life wasn't exactly sunshine and roses. He had to fight and claw his way through things. However, he started to settle in. He at least felt good knowing the fact there weren't any stupid adults. He thought life like this wasn't exactly bad. This is when he met a strange old man. The old man, Ma Tae-byum, came at him and chewed him out for smoking in front of his store. Han-gil felt annoyed by the guy's attitude and asked the guy what was wrong with his smoking. The guy didn't like Han-gil talking back to him and took his cigarette and started smoking himself. He told Han-gil that he should at least share his cigarette if he wants to smoke. Han-gil was shocked by the guy, but he was quite normal about it. Later, the guy asked Han-gil if he was a runaway. He saw all the scars on his face and could tell that Han-gil was going through hell ever since he became a runaway. He asked him to quit living like this. Han-gil wasn't interested in Tae-byum's words and started leaving. The guy stopped him and told him to reconsider his choices. He can't live like this on the outside without getting freeze to his end, so if he wants to live, he should come with him. Han-gil decided to go along with him out of curiosity. This is when he figured out that Tae-byum was taking care of orphans and helpless kids at his store. He saw a few kids at the place, and it was an odd feeling for Han-gil. Even though Tae-byum told him to feel at home, he couldn't just adjust to life like that. He didn't understand the warmth. So, even though Tae-byum told him to stay at his store, Han-gil left and went back to the streets. He went back to his old way of fighting to survive. Eventually, he came across Dae-seong, who ruled the streets back then, and started fighting them. The fighting didn't go well for him, and he eventually got taken out by an executive. The executive stepped on his head and asked Han-gil if he wanted to join them, as he had a lot of potential to do something. There were only two options, either join them or get stabbed. Han-gil, burnt out by his life, thought this was an opportunity to end it. He started provoking the thugs to stab him. He said that they were all talking, and they have never actually stabbed anyone. He started persuading them to do it. The executive was taken aback by his craziness, and told his men to stab him and finish it. However, before that could happen, Ma Tae-byum came and stopped the knife with his bare hands. He asked how they could do something like this to a kid. What followed was a long fight, where Tae-byum took a lot of hits from Han-gil. Eventually, the thugs left as they didn't want this little incident to get bigger. Battered up, Tae-byum questioned Han-gil on why he got into a fight with thugs. Moreover, what bothered him the most was Han-gil's attitude towards life. It made Tae-byum tear up. This was an eye-opening moment for Han-gil. For the first time in his life, someone was crying for him. Hangil knew that there was someone who cared for him, and so he went back to Taebyum. He proceeded to follow Taebyum around like he was his own father. He got used to his new familial life and enjoyed it. One day, Taebyum explained why he helped out Hangil. He told how he was also a runaway, wandering the streets when he was Hangil's age. It was a tough period. Everything was hard, and he felt very lonely. However, his neighbors were very helpful. So when the help started coming in, he no longer felt lonely. This is why, when he sees kids in a similar position, he wants to reach out and help. So, he told Hangil that there's no reason to feel alone, and that he belongs in the world. He assured Hangil that he was on his side, and he could trust him. Back to the current time, Hangil stared at the group of thugs coming at him. The thugs talked about how Hangil is a tough guy, because he took down everyone who went for the girl. Hangil checked on the girl behind him and told her to hold on. He mentioned how life as a runaway has hardships of its own. But it's worth it to hold on and live as long as one has someone with them. And he assures the girl that he is with her, so she must hold on. Shin Yusong heard this and told Hangil that his words are just as annoying as the old man. In a moment of anger, he then told his men to go and take Cho Hangil's life. He told them that if they don't manage to take his life within 5 minutes, he will make sure all of them meet their end. Motivated not to fail, the thugs rush towards Hangil. The fight begins and Hangil slowly starts taking on the guys. He was doing quite well, but it started getting harder as more men poured in. Suddenly, the thugs felt some unknown force hitting them. They couldn't see who it was in the dark, as the room light had been dimmed off. It was none other than Lim Dajuan, who came in and started hitting them. He went up and joined Hangil, which shocked the guy. Hangil asks him why and how he was there. Dajuan told him that explanations are for another time. For now, they need to lock in for what's about to come. For some context, we see what happened a few minutes earlier. Dajuan is embroiled in a heated battle with Lee Yoonhak. The two go at it hard, and Yoonhak gets the edge over Dajuan. His striking is too good, and his toughness is off the charts. This makes Dajuan wonder if the guy is an executive too. He looks just as strong as someone like Bae Gangrak. This is when Dajuan remembers what Yoonhak said earlier. He mentioned how Cho Hangil was fighting alone for their sake inside the church. This made Dajuan realize that Hangil must be in danger, as he is alone. He comes to understand that he can't waste fighting a drawn-out fight with Yoonhak and needs to hurry. So, Cho Hangil uses the dirt on the ground and throws it towards Yoonhak's eyes. This blinds Yoonhak momentarily and allows Dajuan to make the escape. On his way out, Dajuan makes sure to get the girl with him. He takes out a few lackeys with uppercuts and other punches before moving out. They make a run for it and only rest when they've got enough distance on the thugs. Dajuan assures the girl that they're most likely safe now, and now he will be going to the church to fight alongside Hangil. The girl tells Dajuan about her friend, who is the same girl Hangil is protecting, and asks for Dajuan to help her. Upon entering the church, Dajuan sees just how battered and beaten down Hangil is from the constant fighting. He also spots the friend of the girl, and understands that Hangil is protecting her. He realizes that he won't be doing well if he directly joins the fight, so he cooks up a plan. He turned off the lights, and that's how he joined up with Cho Hangil. Dajuan told Hangil to stop with the talk and go for the escape first, as that's the most important thing. Hangil looked around to see that Shin Yusong was right there. This made him realize that both Yusong and Dajuan were at the same place, and it made him uncomfortable. He remembers first meeting Yusong at this very church. He used a brick to fight the bullies but got beaten up badly. It was very much like how it was with Dajuan. So Hangil joined in to help Yusong. He beat up the bullies and rescued him. After that, he emulated Taebyum and asked Yusong to join him for food. From there, he took him to Taebyum's hardware shop, and they started living together. Yusong got along with everyone right away. They started living a harmonious life and everything was coming along great. For Hangil, this was great, as finally he had someone his age. They became the best of friends and would spend the entire day together. Eventually, Yuzong asked Hangil to teach him how to fight as he wanted revenge. Hangil couldn't refuse and started teaching him. Yuzong adapted like a fish to water, as he already could fight a bit. Soon, he took his revenge on the guys. However, he was a lot more sadistic and ruthless in his approach. Yuzong got drunk on his own power. He started going around and picking fights like it was nothing. He had become a thug like how Cho Hangil was in the past. However, a key difference between them was that Hangil was a loner, but Yuzong formed a group. He would go around the area promoting his group and picking fights. At one point, he got into a fight with the mafia. The mafia were mad at him because of this, but he didn't stop and started seeing the mafia like they were nothing. Mate Biem learned of this and scolded Shin Yuzong, as he had warned him against fighting the mafia. However, Yuzong became rebellious and wanted none of it. The Haegwang store life was slowly crumbling. One day, the store was set on fire by the mafia because Tae Biem had refused to pay the protection money. During that accident, Tae Biem had injured himself too badly while he tried to help the kids escape. It was to no avail. In his final moments, Tae Biem apologized to Hangil for not being able to stay by his side. However, he wanted him to stay happy even after his passing. Losing Tae Biem and the kids was a traumatic moment for Hangil, and he had gone into living like trash again. This was when Yuzong told Hangil to cheer up and continue the legacy of Tae Biem by creating a safe haven for runaway kids. Yuzong had seemingly become like his past self after Tae Biem passed away. And so, they formed the Haegwang group and made a safe haven for the runaways. They also attacked the mafia to keep the group safe and enact revenge for what happened to them. The duo of Hangil and Yuzong were quite revered for being strong. One day, Hangil attacked the mafia boss. The mafia boss asked for mercy, citing their partnership as a reason. Hangil didn't know what he was on about and wanted to finish him. This is when the boss informed him that he helped with the store fire. Hangil was confused, but his confusion turned to horror when he learned that Yuzong sponsored the store fire. Livid, Hangil went to Yuzong and started beating the crap out of him. He asked for a reason as to why Yuzong did something like that when Tae Biem was basically a father to them. Yuzong, being the person that he is, said the reason was simple. He cited money to be the reason. He was getting it on good, but Tae Biem interfered with his business, and he had to get rid of him. Hangil got even more pissed off and tried to attack Yuzong again, but Kwon Yuel and Lee Yoonhak stopped him. This is when Yuzong revealed that even now, people like Yoonhak and Yuel are doing business behind his back. The two expressed their want to be with Yuzong, and this broke Hangil. Unable to take it anymore, he called it quits and left the Haegwang. Back in the present time, Doan was still asking Hangil to come and escape with him. Hangil knows that the world here is cruel, and he doesn't want Doan to see it. So he wants him to go away from here. Hangil tells Doan to leave with the girl while he fights, because there's no way they can just escape and expect that they won't get back to them. So Hangil proposes to fight while they escape. Doan opposes, as Hangil was bleeding and was in no condition to fight. However, Hangil said the girl's life is in danger, so they need to hurry with her. He will be just fine. Left with no choice, Doan finally accepts, but promises to come back as soon as he escorts her to safety. He tells Hangil to hold on till then. Thus, Doan takes the girl and escapes. This is when the thugs turn on the lights, and they see Doan escaping with the girl. They're about to give chase, but one of them gets kicked down by Hangil, who declares to everyone that they won't be going anywhere when he is still standing. Hangil takes a stance to take on everyone, while he wishes that Doan continues to save people. Hangil hopes he doesn't become like Shin Yuzong. His final words to Doan before he leaves is that he wants Doan to live well with the guys, and that he will see them again. Even though Doan kept on running, hearing these words from Hangil made him feel weird. He didn't know why Hangil was saying what he was, and it didn't feel right at all. So, for a split second, he wondered if he should leave the girl and go back to fight alongside his mentor. However, he quickly comes to realize that the girl's situation is dire, so he needs to take her to a hospital first. After that, he needs to hurry and come back with the entire Hangil fam to put on a fight. Meanwhile, back at the fight, Hangil is putting on a clinic against his opponents. He uses a long hook to make sure he catches two opponents at once. Following this, he gets kicked by an opponent, but he uses his forearm to block it, all while simultaneously taking care of another attacker who came from the back with his elbows. As he was fighting valiantly, Shin Yusong watched in awe. He acknowledges just how great of a fighter Hangil is. He has always been that way. He, alongside Yusong, managed to take out the mafia as kids. He is one of the reasons why Haegwang became so strong. However, he isn't the only reason, because with his help, they only took down half of the mafia. The rest of the mafia were taken out by his skillful executives. Just then, Kwon Yael comes forward and starts fighting using a knife. He initially managed to land a knife strike on his first full attempt. After that, he started showing off his flashy and quick knife skills while Cho Hangil strengthened his defense with a cross block. However, he isn't allowed much time to hold his block, as another thug attacks him with a baseball bat. The strike is to Hangil's lower back, so it breaks his guard. What follows is another few thugs coming at him with knives at the same time. He manages to dodge the majority of it, but some strikes still graze his face and draw blood. This frustrates Cho Hangil more than anything. He thinks about how it was already tough for him to deal with these fighters barehanded. However, the situation has gotten way tougher now that they're wielding weapons. Shin Yusong watched this and commented saying that Hangil is truly a great fighter. It was thanks to his help that Haegwang got the initial boost it required. But to carry on from there and expand its strength, he has hired some of the strongest and most skillful bunch in the game. So, Yusong makes it clear to Hangil that Haegwang is still strong without him. Cho Hangil scoffed, as he questions just when did he start hiring these skillful people to fight for him. Was it when they met for the first time? That's highly unlikely. Couldn't Yusong just settle after taking his revenge? Why did he feel the need to continue on? Yusong admits that at first, his plan was to get revenge and stopped. But when he learned how to fight thanks to Hangil, he went to those bullies and smashed their faces in with his fists only. It was when he broke their faces that he felt a feeling unlike any other. It wasn't rage, relief, or satisfaction. The feeling was that of sympathy. For the first time in his life, he felt what it was like to be powerful. He questioned those bullies if this is how it had felt for them all along, if this is why they do it. If so, he wanted to feel like this more often too. It was at that moment when he got hooked on power. He wanted to get even stronger and keep feeling this jubilation. He trained himself and expanded his reach by hiring even more runaways and using them to fight and defeat even stronger enemies. He could feel firsthand how much stronger he was getting by the day. However, not everyone was a fan of this. Mate Biam slapped him in the face for using runaways to fight for him. People like him and Cho Hangil, the ones who cherished these people, stood in his way. They didn't want him to get stronger. So, even though he could get stronger by doing what he was doing, he was being held back and made to feel like a weakling. He tried to tell Tae Biam that this was a good way for the runaways to survive freely, but he opposed it. This pissed Yusong off, and eventually, he realized that he needed to cut off the hurdles to get to his goal. So, he played off the mafia to get rid of the hardware store and the people that come with it. The mafia did as he told them, and that day, Tae Biam lost his life. Shin Yusong then used this as a vehicle to convince Hangil to form the Haegwang. Through that, he managed to get back at the mafia and pretty much take them out. So, he is grateful towards Hangil for doing what he did for them. Since then, they have created a system within the church that allows them to hire and nurture runaways to join them. This makes sure that Haegwang will continue growing, and this time, there won't be anyone to block it. As Shin Yusong declares this, his men run at Hangil to finish him off. Hangil realizes that both Yusong and Haegwang have gotten too strong. The guys attacked him with sticks, while the executives used their knives and baseball bats to attack him. He tried blocking, but the damage was taking its toll. Kwon Yael notices that and calls for his men to go for another assault on him, this time with weapons only, because Hangil looked like he didn't have much left. The men charged at Hangil, and Kwon Yael took this opportunity to land a strong lead kick that sent Hangil flying back. This manages to trap Hangil in the storage room, so the executives tell the normal members to block the exit. Han-gil, beaten down, realizes that this time, they're really determined to take him out. Previously, he managed to get away thanks to Doan, but not anymore. The exits are blocked, and the executives are inside to beat him. He realizes that this might very well be his last stand, as the predicament couldn't get tougher. However, he uses the environment of the room to his favor. He picks up an object and throws it at Kwon-yuil. He then dashes towards him, steals his knife and slices his ear off. This is when he gets hit with the baseball bat to the back, when the other two team up and attack him together with their knives. Bleeding profusely, Han-gil puts all his might together to go on a slashing rampage. He manages to hurt all the executives at once. The executives were shocked, and so was Yusong by how good a worn-out Han-gil is. Han-gil took this opportunity to trash-talk Yusong. He asked him if he was scared. He was talking big game about how his executives were the best, but they're not anything special. Yusong clapped back, asking if he was acting tough because he was losing. After all, hasn't even knocked down one of his executives. Han-gil thinks this is too much coming from someone who hides behind his lackeys while they fight and get injured. Yusong decides to ignore it, but Han-gil says that he knows why he is like this. It is because he is still scared of being weaker than him. He knows he can't win, so he hides behind his men. Yusong still tries to ignore it, but Han-gil directly challenges and calls him to fight him right there. Fired up, Yusong comes forward and accepts the challenge, vowing to finish it himself. He tells everyone to get out as he gets ready. Han-gil reckons this is fitting because they should have been the one to see this to end anyway. All while he lights up a cigarette to smoke. Yusong states that he could have finished him earlier, but now he will be doing it. Han-gil lets him know that he doesn't care if Yusong were to take his life today, because now he doesn't care about his life anymore. Saying this, Han-gil flicks off the remnant of the cigarette to a pile of petrol on the floor. This starts a huge fire that confuses everyone. Yusong realizes that he was setting up for this the moment he got here by kicking down the cans. Han-gil says that he never liked playing with fire. However, because this whole conflict started because of a fire, it might as well end with one. So, he gears up and tells Yusong to get his knife ready. Because today, Han-gil was vowing to take down both Yusong and Haegwang down with him.